Hello, everyone. My name is Gus.
Hi, I'm Woody.
And today we're going to be answering one of the most common, comments that we got in one of our past videos, which we'll be linking at the end of this video. But the video that we're talking about basically references somebody who decided to stab themselves before drowning. Okay? And somebody said, well, a lot of people said that they would much rather stab themselves in the heart rather than drowning because drowning is so painful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Painful, traumatic. It's awful. I don't understand what's the point it being awful, traumatic, and all of that if you're going to die anyway. Like, it's not like you're going to live with that trauma for life.
Well, I mean, how long, and I don't know, is that pain? I mean, hold your breath for as long as you can. And
that's
then
not drowning.
Hold your breath for as long as you can, and then at some point the pain, how long can you take that pain?
That's CO2. I don't know. I've never drowned.
So you'll stab yourself in the heart, you think?
No, I'm not.
All right.
The point is,
What is the point?
a lot of people on YouTube, like a lot of people in real life, talk like they're experts. They stop holding your breath. They talk like they're experts, and they're saying like, stabbing yourself in the heart hurts way less than drowning. Like they've done both, and they know from experience. Like, no, I took a knife. I took this knife, and I stabbed myself in the heart, and then I went and drowned, and I compared the two a few times.
Let's play it. Got it.
Well, the point is, this video that we're about to react to. You have an attitude today.
No, I'm just saying.
I can tell.
I now know how long
This
we've
is
been
gonna
going
go
on and on about this.
We're gonna bump heads on this one.
I have an opinion, but let's play it.
This video.
I want to see it from somebody that's drowned. Let this person
Nobody
talk.
drowned in this video.
Well, then I don't know who to believe.
This video is about what happens when you drown. This is somebody's talking
Did
about
he
what
drown?
happens to your body. No.
Well, then how?
Scientists. This is somebody. How can you get
Give me
a
the
drowning
dude that
victim?
drowned,
No.
feels it all, and comes back. That's
Really?
the guy I want to talk to.
No, that's not.
Okay, go ahead. Play it. I'll listen to what the scientists have to say.
Jesus.
Hey there, welcome to Life Noggin. Every year there are over 370,000 drowning deaths worldwide, with children under 5 being the most at risk. And with all the drowning deaths you see in movies and
Swim
TV,
lessons.
it's no wonder that people are afraid of dying that way. But what's actually going on during that process? Well, firstly, drowning isn't like how you see it in the movies. There's not a lot of thrashing around or yells for help. Typically, it's a silent act, where the person's mouth sinks below the surface of the water and then reappears as they try to breathe.
Yes.
Once they can no longer hold their initial breath and start to hyperventilate, they might aspirate water, triggering something called a laryngospasm. This is where the person's vocal cords spasm, blocking their airways and protecting their lungs. However, it also inconveniently makes yelling for help significantly harder to do. Since the person can't take in any fresh air, their oxygen supply starts to fall, potentially leading
had
to a
that.
condition called hypoxia. This is where there's not enough oxygen reaching the body's tissues, and eventually, as the person becomes unconscious, there's a relaxation of their airway, allowing their lungs to fill with water. Depending on how long the person has gone without air, varying levels of damage can occur. For example, a 2013 study found that the likelihood of surviving with little to no brain damage was very low after being submerged for 10 minutes or more. The lack of oxygen can also lead to cardiac arrest. So basically what I'm saying is that drowning is absolutely terrifying, so please wear your life jackets, kids. They're cool and they'll keep you safe.
All right. So, let's paraphrase what just happened. So,
okay.
first of all, when you're drowning, you're not yelling on the surface. We both agree.
Totally.
Right?
I
Not
teach
like the
that in
movies
the
or
rescue class. Yes,
Right.
It's very quiet. It's hard to detect.
So at some
Very hard
point,
to
when you
detect.
start swallowing all this water, right, because you can't get your breath, and hyperventilating, you get that thing where your throat shuts off. It locks up.
And you remember in other videos, I've talked about having even a pellet shoot into me, and it does shut that down for a second.
Yeah.
And you're like,
I wish I had that power just sometimes to just.
and then it slowly opens back up.
Yeah.
Remember I told you about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In some videos, it would be good to just. And then,
Excuse me, doing
because your throat is shut off, At some point, you go hypoxic and you literally go to sleep. So you sink, you relax, water goes into your lungs, you stop breathing. So you die on your sleep, basically. That's what they're saying. You go hypoxic, which means you pass out, you go to sleep, and you die. That's how it works. That's why, if you do your research, don't believe me or Woody, especially Woody. Go to Google or Bing or whatever search engine you use and search, is drowning painful? And you will see there's tons and tons of research done that shows that drowning is actually not painful at all. It's like one of the most peaceful ways to die. It's horrible to drown. I'm not saying it's happy, sunshines and rainbows. It's obviously traumatic and awful, and I don't want to drown. Don't get me wrong. But the actual part of it is not painful. You don't go through pain. You just drown and die, which is awful, but you're not in pain. Anyway, let's keep watching.
I know I look fantastic in my floaties. On top of all of that, if the person is in really cold water, there's also the fear of hypothermia, where the core body temperature falls below 35 degrees Celsius. When hypothermia sets in, it'll cause the body to start shivering intensely, and the person might act clumsy or confused. Their bodies slow down, including their respiration, heart, and metabolic rates, and eventually they might lose consciousness and even die. Let's all take a moment to mourn the loss of Jack from Titanic. But come on, there was seriously enough room on that door for him too.
Dumb.
While hypothermia is a serious threat, it may actually help to prevent the effects of hypoxia. See, it can trigger the diving reflex, where blood vessels constrict and the heart rate slows, and the blood is diverted to the parts of the body that need it the most, like the brain. Hypothermia also decreases how much oxygen is needed by the body's tissues, meaning that it can actually prolong survival and help prevent the tissue damage from hypoxia. In fact, hypothermia and the diving reflex is often cited as a big reason why some young children have been able to survive drowning after being under the water for far more than 10 minutes.
That's what happened to the diver Chris Lemon on The Last Breath. And I'm going to link the video up here in the top right corner, which is he was down there for 30 minutes in freezing water. They're explaining what happened to Chris.
Right.
That being said, do not try to replicate that yourself. It's definitely best to stick with those huge inflatable pool toys instead. I call dibs on the flamingo. Are you afraid of the water? What life-threatening situation do you want us to talk about next? This episode was a little bit morbid, so why don't we celebrate the fact that you exist? If you want to know the odds of you being born and how lucky you are to be alive, check out this video. See, in most cases, in order for you to be alive, your parents had to meet. Assuming that your mother could
not assume that my mother did anything. Okay.
All right. Great video. Very educational, very scientific, with supposedly a lot of facts about the mechanics of what's going on in your body.
Do you disagree with the facts?
It doesn't answer my original question.
Okay.
Like usual, I'm right, and you're not. And here's why. You just tend to believe whatever you say to yourself, and that's okay. But let me explain the part that I'm talking about again. Let's say we're underwater, scuba diving. You by yourself, and you run out of air, and you cannot get to the surface. I don't know, whatever. For some reason, you're out of air and you can't get to the surface. There's no other option. We know at that point, right, ultimately you're going to drown. But when you first run out of air, that final breath, that eep, you're not drowned at that point. There's no, I'm filling up with water.
Correct.
I'm hypoxic. The diving reef, there's nothing but
That hasn't happened yet.
but a buildup of CO2 is starting. It's just holding your breath. You're underwater and you're holding your breath.
Uh-huh.
And at some point, that buildup, it starts to, just like when you're holding your breath, hurt a little. Or what is it like for everybody out there when you're holding your breath? This is what I think most people are fearful of. How long is that feeling of, I'm starving for that last before you go into all the other explanations that this video gave? We're not talking about that point on the video. I get it. I wish I could, if it ever happens to me, I hope it never does, I wish I could snap my fingers and reach that point. But I don't know how long that transition is. And I have a feeling, if you agree with me, those that are fearful of drowning, that maybe that's what we're all saying is the part that is so scary because we've all experienced holding our breath and having that need of taking the next breath. That's what I'm talking about. The whole video is after that. It doesn't really address what I've always been saying would be seemingly a painful experience. We know it's going to go into that part, which isn't going to be painful at some point. By the way, I do totally agree, and I teach it in my stress and rescue class. Drowning is very hard to detect. I've seen it. I've seen a rescue of somebody drowning, and they died and were brought back with my own eyes. And she wasn't out there floundering around. It was like this little motionless thing. And then all of a sudden, the husband next to her just yells for help, and that was it. You never saw her doing anything, which is a slow intake of water into her body. And technically, that's really, by the way, what drowning is. It's when the water starts entering your body, that's when you're drowning. So we may be mixing up words. And when you're air starved and no water has entered your body yet, you haven't started the drowning process, perhaps. Anyway, there's a lot to think about there, and I guarantee you that's what most people are fearful of, is that I'll almost call it the pre-drowning part, the building up of the CO2 where you feel air starved until you can get to that point where this so-called peaceful feeling kicks in.
So you think that the people that go for those world records, the free divers that feel that pain to the max, because those guys push themselves to the max.
Yeah.
Point of passing out, literally.
Mm-hmm.
You think that those guys would say that pain is worse than stabbing themselves in the heart?
That's like saying, do you want an apple or do you want like a steak medium well butterflied? I don't think. I'm not asking them to make that choice. Those free divers aren't. They've trained for a very long time with a known result that they're not going to drown. They don't go into it saying, I'm going to go through this pain to the point of, at some point though, as a free diver, I'm going to carry that knife, and just in case my plan A doesn't work, I'm going to stab they're not thinking like about a plan B. They're just thinking about how do I ultimately train myself to be able to get to the point where I slow down my heart rate and all those things those free divers do to get to the surface and train myself to be able to handle the drop in partial pressure and not pass out. And then, they have a team there to bring them back.
Yeah.
They're not, there's no like, would they rather at some point transition and stab themselves in the heart?
I don't know about that.
The guy that stabbed himself in the heart video that we keep going back to.
Mm-hmm. Well, because that's where all
I
the
don't know
comments
why
came
he
from.
stabbed himself in the heart.
He didn't. I don't think he did.
I don't know why they found him with a knife in his heart. I don't know why.
Me
You
neither.
don't know why.
Nobody knows.
And only one person knows why.
And he's dead.
And he's not going to tell us.
That's right. Unfortunate.
Interesting video. Thank you. Educational. But I don't know what else to say. Like, it didn't really answer the question for me of how
I was hoping to put it
painful
to
is
rest.
going to be
But
before I drown.
I was hoping to put it to rest. Because a lot of the comments, like I said on that video, were like, I rather stab myself in the heart than drowning. You have no idea how painful it is to drown. It's not. Like, you research that, not me, because I've never drowned.
Good job trying to put it to rest. I mean, you didn't. Nothing's resting here.
Oh my God.
But thank you. I mean, I always appreciate when you try. You tried, and and I learned some stuff. I mean, we're more informed.
But
myself and the audience.
But like
is
the
more
stabbing
informed. We appreciate
video,
you.
I feel like my point of view is based on facts. Like
we like you. We appreciate
Google,
you.
Like, there's studies saying it's not painful. You're saying, because when I hold my breath for a little bit, I feel like this little pain right here. So imagine when I'm drowning, how painful it must be. I rather stab myself in the heart. It's way less painful. Like, that's your conclusion. That's your scientific study. That's how you land on every decision and conclusion you make. Great. Awesome.
You good?
What? Like,
I'm about to open my mouth. I'm just making
Oh
sure you
my
don't have anything
God.
out. Okay, so for those who want to hear, what I said, which definitely was not any part of that diet, that blurbing stuff you just said. There's a button and it's the arrow, just a little rewind, and then you can hear my well-articulated thoughts of the part that I was talking about, which has nothing to do with what he just said about. I don't even know what he said. It was hard for me to concentrate. But what I said was nothing to do with the drowning part. It's the build up to it, not hold your breath a little or whatever he just said. Oh, hold your breath a little.
that's what you said.
So me in the audience that agrees with me that the same fear we all would have as it relates to drowning is how long is that pain going to be? The moment you run out of air and you no longer can breathe, between that point and then ultimately where this video picks up is drowning, where water starts to enter into your body. How long is that, and how painful is that process?
Probably shorter and less painful than stabbing yourself in the heart.
You did you say? I can't remember.
I said probably.
You've drowned. You've drowned. I don't remember that part. Were you? Because that sounded. You sound like you really. When was it? When was the date of your?
I'm saying
of departure.
Probably
Probably.
less
on-
painful than stabbing yourself anywhere. Not in the heart, where I'm sure it's more painful than stabbing yourself in the leg, I assume.
I think there's probably 500 to 1,000 different species of aliens here. Probably.
Where did that come from?
Well, probabilities is what there's a multi-universe theory now.
Oh my God.
Multiverse. That is. Listen to this. You want to know how
Dude, that's
many
from Spider-Man.
multiverses? I just watched a special.
Are you
I'm
talking
addicted
about
to-
Spider-Man now?
10 to the 500th power of that many different
What are
universes.
you talking about?
Well, we're talking about probabilities. You said
We're talking about drowning. What
but
are you
the
talking about?
You went into probabilities, and now I'm bringing up
God.
10 to 500th power of different universes. Probably.
Well, maybe there's another universe where Woody actually does research and uses facts
My facts are
and his
based
brain.
upon the part that I'm asking a question on. Not probabilities, not maybe I think so. It's like, how long is that pain? How much is that pain? The transition before you go into this video of the no pain and actual drowning. And if you don't understand the question anymore at this part, then if you really think about it, there's no point in me repeating it again.
No, I
Right, 'cause
understand
I
that.
don't-
It's just a
I-
the question.
It's the whole question that everybody's been talking about
No.
that you didn't solve.
By the way, on that last video, the question doesn't even make sense because the
do you want the last word or should I
on that
respond?
specific story, the diver was in an air pocket. It's not like he was drowning. He found an air pocket, and that's a fact. Why? Because they found the body in an air pocket. All right, so at least we know that. We don't know if the guy stabbed himself. We don't know. What we know is that they found him with a knife, but we know that he found him. They found him in an air pocket. So here's a diver who's running low on air, who's about to die, and all of the sudden, like it's a miracle, finds an air pocket. And people are mad that I find hard to believe that this diver who just almost like died and had a miracle and found an air pocket chose to now at that point that he's no longer almost dead, stab himself in the heart. People are outraged that I find hard to believe that this guy, after finding an air pocket, killed himself. They are outraged. So that's what this video is about. It's also to respond to those critics that they're saying that I'm close-minded. I'm close-minded because I'm saying that I don't think, I find hard to believe
Open it
that
up a
this
little
guy
bit. If you
stabbed himself in the heart.
That is it. The closed-minded part thing, which is the only part I really mostly listen to.
How
You
can
could
I be
open it up.
close-minded
Open it up,
when
open
I'm
it up.
saying I don't know what happened? It
And
could have been
bring-
anything. That's how open-minded works. That's how open-minded I am. It could be anything. You can't say only one thing happened. This guy stabbed himself, and say that you're open-minded. That's incompatible.
Just try.
And if you don't know what we're talking about, here's the video. Right here in the middle. Somewhere around here. So check that out. And we'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.